Welcome, Barflies fan. I am Kevin. I am joining you from Central Ohio, where we have unseasonably warm weather, which has me thinking about baseball. And so I have my good friend Pete with me to discuss all things Barflies 2024 as we get ready for the season. How you doing, Pete?
Oh, I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you?
I cannot complain. I haven't had snow in a couple of weeks, and so my snowblower is sitting comfortably inside, warm, just like I am.
Yeah, I saw there was a lot of snow coming through there the past few weeks. Saw some football games getting canceled or moved around to another day. So yeah, we've been affected by
It's
that
been an
over.
adventure. So we are here. We are excited. A lot has happened in the barfly world since the last time that we talked, and so I thought we'd jump right in here and kind of get a handle on what to expect in 2024. Maybe what's happened in the off season, and so we can get ready for the big start of the new season.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a whole lot of activities going on. I mean, it started right away at the end of the off season. We got started while it was still warm and good weather to get some field construction going. So we're working along the third base line, trying to get the opponents' dugouts, at least the benching situation hammered out there, and to work on some of the weeds kind of growing into the field, kind of shore that up a little bit. Just recently, we've also worked on some of the grounds works as well. So field construction going on. We have lots of new equipment coming in. So we have a camera that came in at the end of the last season that will be getting installed. And so hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of closer plays rather than just the wide angle that we have going on behind home. We should be able to get some pre-programmed zoom ins on some of the bases and some of the action going on.
That's pretty exciting. So we're expecting pretty good field conditions going in for the home team this year.
Oh yeah, so we should be looking at all the other fields, and we have one of the best fields within the Landesliga group this year. Aside from the big names out there, the Paderborn, they have the Bundesliga field, but it's always a pleasure going out there. Same thing with Dortmund, they have the Bundesliga field. But as far as the run-of-the-mill local kind of fields, we got it pretty well under control, and every year we're trying to add on and improve it.
That's outstanding. I love to hear that. I mean, getting ready for the season is such a big thing. You have only so much time in the off season, and that kind of speaks to the roster too, right? A lot of change happens in the off season as you get ready for the new season. And while the field's under construction, the roster's under construction too. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of those roster changes. Maybe some familiar names that aren't going to be around this year, and some new names to be excited about this year.
Yeah, it's always a difficult time during the off season over here in Germany, where players kind of go off and kind of do their own thing throughout the season. It's a little different than the U.S., where you're still constantly grinding day-to-day training. So over here, as far as the Barflies this year, so we've lost a couple players, Fabian and Tim. They're working on their masters or doctorate masters, I think. So they're heads down in the books this season. So we'll see them perhaps one or two games this season, but we can't really rely on them like we did in the past. So that's kind of a down note for us as a team. But we did get towards the end of last season. We have two new players from Venezuela that came in last season. One transferred in from Dortmund, and the other guy is his first time playing in Germany. We've also got a team of three rookies at the end of last season. One of them played for a couple games. So Jacob played for a few games with us, had some good solid defensive plays in left field. And then for our last couple games, we had Falk and Paul join us. So they come from us from a kind of a hobby team in Essen, and so we're happy to have them. But again, they're also studying, so we'll see how many chances they get to play this year. On top of that, we have a transfer coming in from Witten. He's coming in. He hails from Japan, so Shinsuka is joining us. He catches, he pitches, he's learning pitching as well. He's been around for all of our training this year in the off season. We also have new sign from Mexico, Hugo Sanchez. No relation, as I'm told, to the celebrity, but no, he's joining us. He also catches and plays second base, so we're glad to have him on our team. We also have a transfer from Hagen. The Marin is going to come in, and she's going to join us from Hagen. So several new additions. There's a couple people that haven't signed yet, but they've been coming to the trainings. So we'll see about getting them involved coming up. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. I mean, that, hearing some of the things either from the folks that are coming in local, but also from around the world is you're going to have a very interesting and exciting international flavor to the roster this year, and that's that's really that's going to be exciting for you guys.
I know
Um,
we have Cuba, we have Mexico, Japan, Russia, U.S., German. So it's a very multinational national team. And just looking at the whole roster, some of those signs we weren't expecting coming up, and so it's really a challenge having a very large roster. So we're looking at how can we balance that throughout the season. A lot of rookies, but a lot of veterans, and with a 20-man roster, it's how can we get those 9 on the field, but give them playing time across the board. So.
Absolutely. Well, and so when you have that many sort of rookies and veterans, one of the things that you're looking for is that development, both of the individual athlete and how they fit into the roster and the team as a whole. So can you speak a little bit to how that off-season development has gone and how you're starting to maybe put in some of the pieces of the versatility of your athletes and where on the field they fit and kind of maybe even like a little bit into insight into how the lineup might be starting to shape up a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a lot of veterans coming in who are going to be taking that starting role. So Ilya at first base, but we're matching him up with Daniel, who is coming in and really wants to get into that first base. So so the two of them are going to be tag teaming first base there, and we'll look at really splitting 50-50 if we can throughout the games, especially on some of those games where not where we kind of expect to have the advantage, especially at home. So we'll look at that. We have a lot of players that really want to come in and take second base. So we kind of did a survey at the beginning of the year, see where do people want to play. So we'll probably be doing tryouts for second base. We'll probably do tryouts then as well for third base. We have 4 players that would fit very well over there at third. And then as far as outfield, we want to see who wants to take control of the outfield. Who are we going to put out there to take the command and lead in center field? So I have a couple people in mind, but I don't want to kind of jinx the jury pool. So we'll be doing tryouts in March as soon as we can get out on the field.
Oh, that's great. So coming into the season, going out of last season, coming into this season, just want to touch on sort of what were some of your off-season objectives and what are some of your upcoming goals and how do those things kind of tie together for how you see the 2024 season unraveling?
Yeah, so looking back at the 2022 season or the 2023 season already, there was really a lack of consistency in terms of the lineup. We averaged, although we had 24 people on our roster at the end of the season who were able to play, we only averaged 10 people, 10.2 players per game active. And, so that really poses a challenge throughout the season to understand, get that playing time with everybody else on your team. Really having the freedom within the lineup to, put the person in who is having a good day, and try different things out. And so that was really the challenge of 2023. One of the reasons why we decided this year as well not to field 2 teams this year. We are just fielding the 1 team. We even had some requests from other teams to do a joint venture. But again, we wanted to focus on ensuring that we can build that cohesion as a team. We've made it a statement this year to ensure that base coaches are also part of the lineup. So we're not going to go into games with a 9-man roster and have those nines subbing out as base coaches while we're on offense. So that's a point of contention this year. And on as far as like a go-to strategy, we're looking at our veterans being taking command of their at bats. Really being aggressive and on those hitter counts and playing smart when they know, okay, this is going to be the kind of pitch that's going to come. Try to take advantage of that mental game, and at the same time bringing up and getting the experience then for our new players as they come up through. So that's really been the focus as far as the off-season training goes, in working through a system and getting that system in place. As you know, last year I wasn't available for the preseason schedule, so really building that cohesion from the beginning, from the preseason. It's really exciting to see that happen this year.
Oh, that's outstanding to hear. I'm very excited for that. It's going to be nice, like you say, to have that cohesion going into the season, and it seems to me, and I mean, I might be speaking out of school here, but it seems to me like that would give you an opportunity to streamline the training regimen going into the season as you get to know your roster a little bit, and keep that consistency throughout the season with the training. I know that gets tough. It's time consuming, but hopefully to keep that training going consistently through the season. So always you're pushing forward and getting better as the season wears along.
Yeah, and that's really the key. In the off season, as I mentioned, the difference between Germany and the U.S. There's that kind of that down period in the off season. So we have about 10 of our players that are making it regularly for the off season, but as it moves into the regular season, so our season starts towards the end of April. So we'll be able to get on the field somewhere in the middle of March, and so that gives us the 6 weeks to really run a preseason training regimen to get ready for that first game.
Well, since we've moved our way through this off season, I want to start talking a little bit more about the season that's coming up. This is the 2024 preview show, after all. So the league is restructured, right? This was a relegation season. Um, I am an American, so I don't know how that works. Can you kind of talk me through that process a little bit, and maybe for anybody else out there who doesn't understand exactly how that process works and how that's going to affect the season and the upcoming seasons for the Barflies?
Sure. I guess maybe the easiest way to kind of explain that, if you're familiar with YMCA leagues, you have basically different levels of play. So your top level tier, all of the teams are trying to get into that top level tier. And so over here, it's the first Bundesliga league, second Bundesliga, and those two leagues are covered basically by the general German club system. Underneath that, then you have, at least with where we are located, we have the NRV League, which is the Verbandsliga, as they call it. With underneath that, then you have the Landesliga, where we're at, and then the Bezirksliga. And so any new team that's forming will form and start playing within the Bezirksliga. And then at the end of every season, you look at how many teams are within that top tier of the Bezirksliga, and they're able to move up and play in the next league higher in the next season. Same thing goes though if you're in the higher league and you don't play very well, you're down at the bottom of the standings at the end of the year, you lose your opportunity then to play in that. And then there's some other options involved in terms of, are there enough teams that want to play in the higher leagues? And, so there's some shifting around in order to fill all of the leagues within that each season.
Okay, thank you. I mean, like I had a little bit of an idea. I wasn't sure if this was an annual thing, triannual, or how often it happened. So it
Um,
sounds like this is a every year sort of thing.
yeah, so it does happen every year. There has been a lot of consistency, though, at least within our leagues, the past few years, due to teams kind of losing, not losing, disbanding. So we had, for instance, the Ennepetal Raccoons. They kind of worked their way up, and they got into the second Bundesliga. And then unfortunately, they lost their prospects of a grass field, and so their men's team disbanded. They still have a very strong youth team, though, on their artificial turf. And so things like that. Rhina, for instance, they disbanded for a year, played hobby for a year in 2022. Last year, they came back in as the Bezirksliga team in 2023, came in tied first place with Lippstadt, and so both Lippstadt and Rhina are now playing in the Landesliga, the next league higher, along with us, right?
I
And
got
then same thing, Marl was in the Verbandsliga, and they could have stayed in the Verbandsliga this year, but they've chosen to drop down a league.
coming 11. I see.
So
All right.
as so as far as the whole league is structured, it's the same, pretty much the same as last year, except Wuppertal has moved to a parallel league based on region, and then Rhina Lippstadt came up, Marl came down, and so that now we have actually a full 8-team league this year, which is a luxury. We haven't had that in several years, so quite interesting. We played Lippstadt the last time I believe was in 2018. Rhina we played back in 2021 last time. So a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar teams.
Well, that's great. So then, with all that moving around, then, uh, what is the furthest distance you're going to have to travel for a game this year?
It's always Minden. Uh, so I don't have the numbers. I don't have the numbers up there, but it's about a 2-hour drive on the German Autobahn. So yeah.
And the closest, other
Uh,
than obviously home.
yeah, I mean the closest is I believe it's either Marl or Hagen, and it's only about a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Very
I mean
cool.
it's right up the road, so yeah.
That's great. Um, so when you look at this restructured league and what this looks like, I'd like you to kind of see if you could pick out what you think, just using your crystal ball, what you think are going to be like a couple of the really key matchups this year for you guys.
Um, yeah, so I think what's challenging. So I mean, there's the standards. The Untouchables in Paderborn. They're a very formidable rival with their former Bundesliga players. They have Bundesliga coaches, so they know baseball in and out, and they have a great program that really develops their players. So they're always a challenge, but they're always fun to play against. It's always a good time with them. They understand the have fun as part of the game plan. So Minden's always a challenge as well, especially away games on their field. We look at matching what we did last year with Dortmund and Hagen, coming out with wins on them. What the unknowns really are going to be Lippstadt and Rhina. They've been challenging in the past, especially Lippstadt. I know Lippstadt has kind of lost some players to the Untouchables when they were relegated the one year. But so I look at those being as they've come up from the Bezirksliga, those are ones that we should win, right? But we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves on those either, because they are experienced. They do have experienced people. It's not like they're coming out of a brand new system, so they do know what they're doing, and they can be tricky to play against. Marl is going to be an interesting. That's an unknown as well. We know Marl well from 2022 when we played with them in the Bezirksliga. However, this is their first team that we're going to be playing against. So it's going to be challenging, especially since they're coming down and are used to playing at the higher levels. So that's going to be a challenge for sure. It's always a challenge to predict ahead of the season, especially when the other teams are going through a lot of changes, just as we do every off season. So what we saw last year might not necessarily be what we see this year.
That makes perfect sense. You you do not want to get over your skis before the season gets started, and so it's just exciting that you have so many opponents this year. So which one I mean, so who's your rival? Who's the rival in this newly constructed league?
Well, they call it the Derby over here, and so it used to be Hirona was our Derby because they were the closest. So now I think it's really a toss-up between Hagen and Marl, being the closest ones. So if you look at like the Turnpike rivalry as we have is Pittsburgh and Cleveland, right? Oh, you're familiar with, is likely going to be Marl. I would say is our biggest rival, just because
Familiarity,
from the
right?
familiarity. I mean, we know them, and Damian runs a great system there. He's got a great program, and so we had fun as a joint team. So we know the players. We played with them in a joint team a couple of years ago as well. So there's that. It's not like a really hard fighting rivalry, right? But it's the friendly rivalry type, right?
That's okay. That's the more fun kind, anyways. Like
We
there's
leave
no
it down
sense
to
in getting
you.
too riled up. That's right. I
Yeah.
love it. So who's game one?
Not quite sure yet, actually. We're in the middle so we got the original plan from the league, and right now we have until the 21st of February to rearrange any games that might not match. Currently, it's going to be against Hagen at home. So we have the season and home opener on April 20th. We're trying to move that to Sunday the 21st. So stay tuned, and hope perhaps when this episode comes out, then we'll have the actual schedule and we'll put that in the link below.
Well, I mean, that's a little more than 2 months away, but 2 months goes really, really quick. So,
Yeah.
keep the
Yep,
training going, get ready, and pray for good weather.
for sure, for sure.
Well, I mean, before we start moving into wrapping up our 2024 preview, I want to talk about some of the other stuff that you guys are doing outside of baseball.
Yeah.
Um, like I want to talk about. I'd like to hear about uh, some of your either whether it's the club or people that are on the club, individual athletes, about maybe some of their community involvement or some of the school programs that are going on, that sort of stuff that you're doing, because at this level of baseball, it's really fun because the people in the team are part of the community and they live in the community. So I want to hear a little bit about what's going on there and how you guys are doing that.
Yeah, and it's really fun this year. We're making it a point to really go towards schools and try to get some more involvement with that. So we have a program right now that's a joint venture with our lacrosse neighbors in Bochum. And what we're doing starting in March is a 10-week program with the Ersketsner School, and with their sixth grade class specifically. It's a 10-week program. Every Wednesday, their class is going to come out, and we're going to split the group of 30 students into two groups. And 3 weeks will be learning baseball or learning lacrosse. And then after those 3 weeks, they'll switch and learn the other sport. Uh, After that,
Very
then
cool.
there'll be some joint trainings, and there will be some you know, joint ventures. And then there's going to be at the end, the last final 2 weeks will be a game between the two groups. And so that's going to be fun for them to actually play on the lacrosse field, play on a real baseball field. And that's going to be a fun experience there, with the goal really to make that an annual event and perhaps even move that into other schools as well. So we're really excited about that. Really great people that we're working with there to get this organized. And the lacrosse team is also very helpful in helping organize that as well. So that's one thing. At the end of in September, also with them, the idea is to do what they call the Abitur project week. Sorry, I'm trying to switch from German to English. So Abitur is kind of like the high school diploma, to relate that to U.S. terms. But basically, the Abi project week is going to be a week-long intensive specific topic that all of the students get to pick. And so one of those things that they'll be offered is to do a week-long baseball project. And so that goes beyond just learning baseball and how to play baseball, how to play the game, and things like that. It's really going to dive into the history. So 200-year history of baseball. It's going to dive into some of the physics and the mechanics, the physiology, all of the stresses that you put on your shoulder, the bat angle, exit velocity, all that fun stuff from a science perspective and a physiology perspective, health perspective, but also then also have them learn the game as well, and hopefully we'll have enough players. If not, we'll try to bring in some of our players to have a final game. And with our live stream capabilities, also live stream it at the same time. So that should be fun.
What an incredibly cool thing. That's awesome. And to be able to take and see baseball for the game that I know that I love and that you love, and see the history of the game. And there's been some warts. It's not all sunshines and puppy dogs, but under getting the chance to learn it from both a historical and a physical and a science. I mean, what a neat project, and I'm excited that you guys are involved in that. That's
Yeah.
um
I mean,
it's incredibly cool is what it is. I don't know. I don't have like good fancy words for it, man. It's
yeah,
awesome.
it's one of those passions that I have in terms of baseball growing up in the United States, and just having that experience and having the opportunity to kind of bring that into Germany. When you look at the U.S. school system, every year you have a chance to play a month of baseball in school. And when I go out and talk to people in Germany, it's like, baseball, Germany? What? I had the conversation a few weeks back with, I'm not going to drop names, but I was having a conversation with someone from Asia, but he was really excited.
King
Like,
Charles. Okay,
yeah,
you
I
can tell
mean,
everybody.
not yet, maybe more on that to come, but he no, he was really excited. It's like, oh, and it's right down the road from where he was, So there's an opportunity there to reach out to the community, and you know that's a challenge that we have as a baseball community in Germany, and so that's really what my personal goal, as far as this season goes, is to be that good neighbor, that good club neighbor to provide other clubs. You might see the interview series that we've been doing in terms of giving a platform for some of these other clubs to who might not have the capabilities that we have in terms of multimedia or social reach, to go out and provide them the opportunity to speak to their communities, to speak to other members of the baseball community on some of the challenges that they've faced, how they've overcome those. And it's really given me also an opportunity as far as learning from them as well, what their experiences are, and realizing we're not just an island in Bochum. Really, the baseball community in Germany is really close, and how can we help each other achieve great?
Well, it's incredible to hear that's going on, and that hopefully you're bringing some awareness. I mean, it's never going to be the most popular sport. But if it's another avenue for people to get together, feel a sense of community together, feel a sense of team, go out and enjoy stuff, whether it's as a spectator or you get your kids involved, you yourself get involved and start playing a game that everybody loves. I think that's noble work, and I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, and giving the students, giving the youth the opportunity to go out and be a part of a team. And there's clubs out there, there's soccer clubs out there that are doing the same thing, there's volleyball, and everybody needs to find their passion, and be providing baseball is another option for the youth to go out and learn something and be a part of something special. I'm really excited and about building that up throughout the next few years too.
That's great. And so I wonder, as you are involved with that and all that, I know recently you went through the process to get your umpire certification.
Yeah, I was part of three from our team to get I finally decided to go out and get it this year. But yeah, we have Daniel got his umpire license as well as Adrian. And right now we have Stefan and Christian going out and getting their B umpire license. So they're moving up in the ranks this year as well.
Wow, that's great. That's that's good. You never want to be in a situation where there's not enough people to umpire the games that there are players for. So,
And it's really helpful as far as we mentioned player development earlier, and the feedback from Daniel and Adrian on that was, wow, there's some rules. Adrian grew up in Cuba, knows baseball very well, but just seeing that other perspective of the game and understanding some of the rules and all of the things that happen from a different perspective. So very helpful. Would recommend it to anybody else who's interested to go out and learn that. And you know, even if it or scoring, if we had Patrick went out and got his official score license this year as well. So yeah.
that that's awesome. I love hearing that. That's it's interesting. Like I can't help it because this is where I live in America. To think of getting an official scoring license. When my son was growing up playing baseball, of course I scored a lot of the games as I helped coach those teams. But a lot of times, it was. A mom sitting in the stands would be the scorer, and you would have the way it worked. There was a score for each team, and then they would compare it, and so it's it's to me interesting that they put such a high onus on scoring that it's, hey, go take a class, learn how to do this. Here's your certification to be able to score these games because
Mhm.
it really is. It's a unique sport in that way that there is a very specific way that it gets scored. And here, like I learned it from my grandpa, you know. Um, but I think that that's really interesting and having some folks on your team that have gone through that, I think that helps with an understanding of the game too, is understanding how that game flows, how when the ball touches this guy to that guy, it's all part of the intricacies of this very, very weird but wonderful sport that we love.
I don't know, you put 20 umpires in a room and come up with some hypothetical theory about some sort of play that happened somewhere, right? And you'll get 20 different ideas of how to
Uh,
call it. So
Absolutely. Um, well, I guess we already kind of talked about the tech at the new stadium. That was I was looking down at my list here and I saw tech for this season, but you kind of talked about that right up top, with the new camera angles and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, just to kind of put a bow on that, is there anything else on the horizon that we can look forward to?
well, I mean, like I said, we're going to try to live stream this year. If not, it might just be a delayed day after kind of stream. But trying to get more into the multimedia. So there's going to be some new teasers, some new splash screens and things like that. And so we're going to do a photo shoot in March to maybe do some, you know how like with the NFL where they'll come up with the player and they're like pointing to the camera, things like that. So we're going to try to mix that in, things like that. Try to have some
I
fun.
make sure that you're. I want you just like eating a huge bratwurst. That'll be your
Ja,
picture.
Wiener Schnitzel, right?
Well, at this point here, I'm going to open it up to you if you have anything you feel like we haven't covered yet in this intro that you'd like to kind of speak to before we move on and get ready for those first couple games of the season.
No, I think we've covered quite a lot. I really this season is about going out and having fun and being confident, building that consistency within the team, and really bringing up the next generation of players with the team. So that's really our focus this year is to, you know, fun, consistency, and focus.
You said it all. I'm excited for the season coming up. Um, we uh, we try pretty hard to coordinate to do this on a semi regular basis, and sometimes we fail miserably, and it's usually my fault. The time gap and the work schedules can be a little bit much, but I'm looking forward to continue like we have in the past of getting together and talking baseball, and specifically talking Barflies baseball and what's going on with the team this year. So I'm excited again. I mean, this will be our third season doing this,
It's
I
awesome.
think. And so I'm excited to see what the 2024 Barfly season has in store for us.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Well, for all of you out there, for me here over on the other side of the pond, we appreciate you tuning in and listening to the Barflies Report as we intro 2024. And at some point, to be determined, I don't know when, we'll talk to you again. Cheers.
Take care. And cut.
Nailed it.
Oh, gotcha.